Hey, everybody, welcome to another edition of Spits and Suds. I'm Gavin Spittle of 1053 The Fan. Thank you so much for listening and supporting Spits and Suds. We truly appreciate it. We're making our way to the home opener. Boy, what a weekend for our Dallas Stars. Big win against Winnipeg. Then they go to Colorado, a big win. David Castillo will join us in just a moment from D Magazine and his Substack called Star Stack, and we'll talk everything Dallas Stars and fill you in and give you a preview for tomorrow night's tilt against the Minnesota Wild. But first, let's talk about the reason that we're here. It's because of the on-time experts. 5,744. What does that number mean? That's the number of reviews they currently have on Google. And with that, the on-time experts, 4.8 out of 5 stars. Okay, that's Google. What about Facebook? 4.8 out of 5 stars. What about 2 Year Success Inc.? 94% approval rate. Why am I giving these? Because this is not just me talking about it. This is other users that have gone through the on-time experts. And if you're a first-time customer, they have some amazing specials. You just go to the ontimeexperts.com and click on those specials. And I think you're going to see one that caters to your needs. Me personally, this time of year when the weather's nice, I mean, it's even a little mild right now. You're probably not thinking of the cooler temperatures are ahead, but how is your heating system working? And you get that smell initially when that heat goes on, and that's normal, but is the system going to be running at its peak efficiency? The on-time experts will give you a complete tune-up. They'll clean it. It's just $59 through October 31st if you're a first-time customer. Personally, I think $59 is worth peace of mind, but they have so many deals on the website. And the best part, the Book Now button. You hear me talking about it. For instance, I talked about last week, tried to get an appointment with a specialist. I am now on a waiting list. That's not the case with the on-time experts. The Book Now button, and you get to choose the window. And then they'll call you and they'll shrink the window even more and they'll update you on the technician. Same day service guaranteed. Most importantly, they are truly supporting hockey and DFW. They're the sponsor here of Spits and Suds, and they're the official HVAC company of the Dallas Stars, keeping your temperatures nice all season long. The on-time experts at theontimeexperts.com. And we bring in our good friend who always comes through, David Castillo of D Magazine. Of course, he has his Substack, Stars Stack. He also has another Substack called Sticks and Salvos. He runs a really interesting Stars Discord where Stars fans can go back and forth. How are you, David?
I'm doing good. I did have a question. Like, do I always come through? I'm not really sure. I feel like I often fail this guy in terms of being available.
It is very interesting, and I need Spits and Suds. I call them Sudsies. I need your help because I want to know if you've run into this, and it is kind of hockey. So I wanted to take David out, and even David and his wife out to dinner as a thank you for all his contributions to the program. So I said, David, man, I was like, what's your availability? I'll come grab you. It'll be great. And David said, that sounds great in the future, but first I promised Robert Tiffin that I'd go out with him. So I then went to Robert, and Robert started laughing. The greatness of Robert Tiffin at starsthoughts.com. It would be great if all three of us got together, a little round table hockey. And I went back to David and said, Robert and I'll go together. And David said, well, Robert asked first, so it just needs to be Robert and I, and then you and I can go out. Now, I ask you, the Spits and Suds listener, have you ever had that where you want to take your friend or colleague out, but you're put in basically the on-time experts would not do this, for the record. Like, I can book
what a tie-in.
What a tie-in. I can book the on-time experts quicker than a dinner with David Castillo.
Listen, you have set it in my head. Right, that I'm located in not Fort Worth.
It doesn't matter.
So I feel like I'm an imposition on anybody that says, well, yeah, I'm sorry about, your lame duck car troubles. I'll go out and get you. And I'm like, you're going to an hour and a half on the road and back just to pick me up. And my company may not even be all that it's cracked up to be.
Yes. The answer is yes. I would love that. But
I feel like there's some slight revisionism though, which is that like it was you never quite package it, and maybe this is my memory playing tricks on me, but I don't think you ever packaged it as, hey, let's all hang out. But I will say this, I do like the idea, like I do prefer like the one-on-ones. I feel like you get to kind of you hang out with somebody like one-on-one. I feel like you can always kind of learn more about them, and you're sort of uh you're you're incarcerated in terms of one-on-one dynamics, which makes it sound awful, but like
that's fair.
yeah, listen, I would love to hang out with both of you individually first, and then do the whole like group three amigos thing.
Okay. All right. That's fair. Okay.
That's fair. Okay, all right.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I understand. I will wait my turn, and I will be excited to drive out to Tarrant County and take the mayor out, and that would be great. The new mayor of Tarrant County, David Castillo. All right. So, what were your thoughts from a Winnipeg win and a big win in Colorado?
Oh man, we go straight from positive into negative. No, I'm just kidding. It's so weird. Like it's you would think that there is like no way after two wins on the road against the two of the best opponents in the Central, that there would really be any asterisks, or that there would be necessarily anything to criticize. But I think there kind of is. Now, I don't want that to distract from the fact that, like, again, that's two wins on the road against two divisional opponents, very good teams. And that's a big deal. It's a big deal not just for points in the standings, but it's a big deal for the new head coach, right? Comes out of the gate swinging, can claim he is undefeated. Um, but man, it's really hard to just be all sunshine and rainbows, since versus Winnipeg, right? There was the Winnipeg tying it up, that kind of third period sort of mini collapse, and then Colorado just outplayed them. Like I think at even strength, the Stars got outshot 60-30.
I agree.
And it was just the Jake Ottinger show, right? He played, like the game of his life that night. And so I think the outcome is, it's kind of one of those situations where the outcome is kind of really more important than the process. But I think that the reason why, like, I was just kind of like, I don't know about all that, which is because I feel like this is something we saw last season under DeBoer, where it really took a while for the team to get going. And I realize totally different scenarios, right? Dallas is getting used to the new system, new coach, new head coach. So a lot of this, has rational explanations, um, but that slow start kind of really last season caught up to them. It showed up in especially their defensive performance, and it's just kind of like looking at like system stuff. I'm hoping, I want to see like some better breakouts, a more assertive forecheck, and I'm still kind of waiting for that. Again, the two wins is great, but I do feel like there are a few asterisks within those two wins.
Well, I don't think it's a bad thing either. I mean, you saw Glenn Gulletson after the Colorado game. He wasn't happy. He liked that they won, but he knows they have to clean stuff up. So it wasn't like they were celebrating. And I was asking Sean about this on Friday. It's almost in a way, not a coach's dream. That's accentuating it a little too much, but you have 4 points, yet you have so much on tape that you can go over with the guys and say, we cannot sustain this kind of hockey, and this is what I'm preaching about. That, like you said, more purpose on the forecheck. We can't let teams back in the game. We got to stop taking penalties. Like just things like that. I feel as though Gulletson in the, after the Colorado shootout win, that now they can go over some of these things with a few days off.
I mean, okay, I hope I'm not trying. I don't mean to come off as argumentative, and I'm not even trying to make an argument here. But is that a little bit like too convenient of an excuse, right? Because isn't that what the entire summer is for, right? To get the systems down, to establish the tactics and the chemistries.
I mean, I think to a point, but at the same time, now you have, one would think that the tape would be able to convince these guys. And And yeah, you can't make a lot of adjustments, but you certainly can move in a right direction. And honestly, I think you got to see some tape on home. I gotta see what's happening on Tuesday and Thursday, and I need 15 games to pass, David, before this system really comes to fruition. I mean, we're talking a new coach, and we're talking several different systems. Yeah, they're tweaks, not like major adjustments, but at the same time, I need to see some games under this team's belt as far as improvement, and then I want to see how they perform at home as compared to the road.
Yeah, no, which is totally fair point. And that's why, I kind of preface with, like I'm not necessarily kind of making a case or some sort of argument. Just that, yes, new head coach, totally understandable. And again, I keep going back to like, 2 wins against, the quality of competition. That's really huge. But except for Jamie Benn, they are healthy. This is a extremely good roster. And I think my expectations are just maybe kind of perhaps a little too high. Like I think the expectation is that, well, win or lose, like the team should still look good. I mean, not to say they need to look perfect. Not every game needs to be a 60-minute masterclass or anything like that. But I think they have enough veterans and enough quality young players at this point that it should look a little sharper. And that's kind of, again, this is just that extra 2% that I'd like to see that would really convince me like, oh, wow, this team, excuse me, is on the verge of really, cracking the code and being what we think they're capable of. Because again, this is not like just, flash in the pan, like kind of consistent, perennial contender. No, this is a team that I think even on the Athletic, right, the Stars as the odds-on Cup favorite per the analytics, and so that's where I'm coming from.
Totally understand. I guess one of the questions is when Oskar Bäck does come back, does he re-enter the lineup? And I know you're laughing, but honestly, I don't think he's better than anyone that's currently suited.
I mean, I'm not like laughing at like, oh, here's Gavin. He has to talk about his favorite players in the fourth line or
that's
anything
correct.
like that. Just that like I always expect, like, oh man, Stars, 2-0. Like, let's talk about Mikko Rantanen. No, let's talk about Oskar Bäck. Just that kind of about face. But I would agree. Like, I feel like I'm on an island here with Ritzkovian, in terms of like, yeah, it's nice to see him. It was nice to see him stand up for Miro Heiskanen after he took that big hit. And sort of the reptilian part of my brain absolutely does not mind a good punch in the face contest, assuming it's consensual, right? Nobody's been like sucker punched,
Sure.
jumped, or whatever. But I still would like to see a little bit more from him on the hockey side of things. I don't know that he's necessarily had the chance though either.
Correct.
So I kind of agree, and I don't like. I definitely want to see him play more games. I think his game, especially offensively, like has a little bit more texture than say Oskar Bäck. But if they end up with say like Oskar Bäck with Faxa and Bastian, yeah, the line's not going to score a whole lot, even though Bastian did get a goal on Saturday. But nonetheless, I think it's going to be hard to really kind of screw that up because I think you already have a nice mix of players that really excel on the defensive side of the puck.
I think Bastian's been really good. That would I mean, if I had to take someone out of the lineup, it probably would have to be Ritzkovian because of his flexibility. But yeah, let's talk about Mikko Rantanen, 4 points in 2 games. I guess.
I hope you weren't doing that to appease me. If you had more to say about Nathan
no.
Bastian, Gavin, you sound
I'll
off.
I'll just start my new podcast called The Fourth Line, which I just concentrate on third and fourth liners and my love affair with them.
You know what? I think you would have a pretty good show on your hands. Ryan Reeves did score a goal the other night.
I mean, how's Celebrini doing? He's standing up, right? No one's bothering him? Of course not, because Ryan Reeves is around. I mean,
okay, so Mikko Rantanen basically just kind of picked up where he left off. Like I don't know that there's any more kind of like real sort of insightful praise we can heap. I honestly think that like initially, I think early on before the season started, I was really curious about what kind of chemistry um, that Gulletson would kind of be looked to, that he'd be looking to kind of forge with like Rantanen and say either like Hintz or Johnston. And kind of what's apparent to me, because he has cycled through a lot of different combinations, what's readily apparent is that it just doesn't matter. Like Rantanen he's going to play his game, he's going to be extremely effective. And whether it's with Hintz, Johnston, or God forbid Duchesne, which I'm not sure they've actually tried, but I mean, like he's just going to be what he's always been,
Yep.
which is just an elite winger.
And one of the things maybe we have not mentioned was Glenn Gulletson in the preseason talked about putting his best players on the ice as much as possible. And remember when Rantanen first came here, he was not playing the minutes that he had in Colorado. And now you look at the first two games against Winnipeg, 18-48, and then against Colorado, 21-15. So he's certainly getting more shifts and more ice time, 29 shifts against Colorado.
I think that's kind of just a function of, I think, Gulletson's philosophy, which is that, well, it's going to be hard to really just kind of live with, some of the combinations that they have. So, kind of why not, really just kind of mix and match, your best players and just kind of, hope things sort of trickle down. I still want to see, like some kind of chemistry with the others. I feel like there are some players that haven't really had a chance to kind of shine, but I mean, it's the thing that's going to really kind of, propel them to the next level. And you just kind of saw it with that shift. There was that, it was Rantanen, I think, his assist on the Harley goal where he just
Yes.
chucks the jet forward just kind of off of them without much effort, and that's just kind of the stuff that it's hard not to want shift in and shift out, and thus hard not to kind of just play him with everybody and give him the opportunity to kind of just play with as many different elite players as possible, for just to kind of let him do what he does, which is take over a game.
When you play elite teams, there are going to be breakdowns, and one of the things that I noticed was the Stars had trouble getting out of their own zone and didn't win as many puck battles. That's going to happen against good teams. And, meanwhile, Jared Bednauer saying he never wants to see the Stars again. They won't face each other until March. But, at the same time, I agree with you. I thought Colorado played a really, a good game. I just think the Stars took advantage when the advantage was given. But I thought Colorado was pretty dominant at times, and Jake Ottinger stood on his head. So defensively, are you seeing anything that you can point out to our listeners as far as, what are your thoughts on Lundkvist and Harley together, Esa Lindell and Miro Heiskanen? I've tried not to be critical, David, of Heiskanen. I still think he's really, really good, but am I fair by saying Heiskanen's off to kind of a slow start?
Yeah, I think that's I actually kind of was wondering, like, early on, and this is just like, just silly Redditor spitball, and I thought like Heiskanen kind of looked slow, and
That's what I thought.
What is going on? And I hadn't realized until they pointed out the game after that Heiskanen actually played 27 minutes. It didn't seem like it. So maybe part of that is just kind of perhaps him kind of pacing himself, given the minutes he's logging. Maybe not. I don't really know, but I think it's fair to say, he's been relatively quiet. But you could also say that, perhaps that's a function of, well, it's not like Esa Lindell and Heiskanen have a ton of time together. I mean, this is kind of one of the things that, ideally we would have seen last season when Lindell was left on a pair with Cody Ceci, which is that, you kind of have like Harley and Heiskanen on separate pairs. So I think there could be some of that. Could also just be, they played two tough opponents. And so it's, given the way Heiskanen plays, which he tends to be a very subtle player, he's a player that really, I think, to me, I've always said that he's a shutdown defenseman at heart. Like, that's just who he is. And one of the reasons why, I don't know if we'll get to it or not. One of the reasons why, and I'm not gonna listen. I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna live or die by this kind of argument about the power play, because I do think there is something to, hey, a new system, a new look, new tactics, a new top unit. That's fine. I can wait and see. But at the same time, it's kind of hard not to just be like, listen, like, what are we doing here? Like, we know Harley's the better offensive player. And that to me is where I think normally I would be okay with that. We're just kind of giving it a 5-10 game run if Harley didn't look so good. And I think that's one of the things that really kind of has stood out over these first couple games, which is just how excellent, how fluid. And don't forget, like Harley is playing the second most minutes per game on the PK as well.
Yeah.
So this coaching staff really sees somebody that's not just, some sort of like puck mover or puck rusher, but like as a genuine impact player. And so that's been kind of my main takeaway, is that sort of like it really feels like in terms of the attack, all roads lead through Harley. And I think Lundkvist has been fantastic, but I'm still kind of waiting because of the kind of lack of like clean exits to kind of really see where this is headed, besides defenders picking up a couple goals.
Yeah, I think Labushkin's also off to a slow start, or maybe just a carryover from last season. So that'll be interesting to see. And I think Bischel's learning on the job. So I'm guessing that Jim Nill is keeping a keen eye on that. And if that's one thing that they can look at as far as the trade deadline with the assets they have, that might be certainly one of them. What have you seen from Sam Steele so far? It's kind of been quiet.
I I hate doing the I told you so routine, because that's not really like, I mean, part of this is like Dallas is just kind of forced into this particular situation, but Sam Steele had a really good junior career as an offensive player, but we've already seen at the NHL level. I mean, this is a guy that was paired with Kaprizov and Zuccarello for a pretty solid stint, and didn't put up a ton of points, right? I mean, I don't even think he cracked 30 points that season, even though he didn't play on the top line the entire time. But nonetheless, I think Steele's a really good player. So this is not a criticism of the guy at all. Just that for whatever reason, his game doesn't seem to mesh well with other offensive talents. Whereas for some reason, you put him in the bottom six and his offensive game just seems to come alive. I don't necessarily kind of know why that is. But I think he's been fine. He's kind of playing within his own game. But it's kind of a good example of, I think, for the people that maybe kind of criticize Jamie Benn for not necessarily being the best defensive forward, for kind of some of his decision making, is still kind of really like reveals kind of what Ben can still do even in his advanced age, because I don't think there's anybody that would say like, well, if Ben were in that spot, ideal or not, that Ben wouldn't look a lot better and wouldn't probably get more out of his teammates than what Sam Steele is capable of, who, for all of his strengths, and he does have them, just isn't a portable player when it comes to offensive talents next to him. Whereas Ben is. And we've seen that for, yes, Wyatt Johnson has been the prime mover. Nobody should doubt that. But Ben has still got quite a bit out of Johnson. Johnson has, squeezed what he could out of Ben. And it shows up in their numbers as well, where, they actually have, kind of give each other a boost, especially on the passing side of things.
Looking ahead, next up, Minnesota, home opener. 8:30 puck drop, which we know will be an 8:52 puck drop tomorrow night at the AAC. Why don't they just say that? Come on. But
I'm so glad you got that in though, because that is just the lamest thing in hockey. Why?
I agree. I just say what it is. Like I get it, but I just don't understand, because it's not like, I understand there's some pad time in case the game goes to overtime, but then you're going back to the studio and you're talking for a while. Like, you guys know exactly what time. And I don't understand why you're like, giving us a 20-minute. Maybe they think it'll hurt ticket sales if they put it that late. That might be a reason as well, specifically during a weeknight. But it's just tough. I know they have to deem certain cities as far as being more toward the mountain and left coast, so to speak, because Dallas and Minnesota are two that are put in that category. So it does make sense to put them together. But it's tough to gain traction for these cities. That, I mean, I remember Seattle was playing Minnesota, and I was listening to it last year, David, and puck drop, and I was like, oh, Minnesota's in Seattle, I'll listen to this game. And no, it was in Minnesota, and the puck drop was around 9:00. It's just wow. But they are healthy. Some have picked them as the third in the division and have knocked Winnipeg down. So Kaprizov coming off that new deal, Marco Rossi, Matt Boldy. They have a lot of players. Brock Faber. They're fairly deep. I look at a third line that can give you some issues with Foligno and Hartman, kind of grinders with some size. And obviously, you have to get a lot of shots on net because, you're going up against Philip Gustafsson. Probably. You might be going up against Wallstedt because they're on a back-to-back. They play the LA Kings at home, and then they fly right after the game. So your thoughts on tomorrow night?
Yeah, it should be interesting. Like, it's like not the most insightful kind of like comment about I don't I guess I still don't know what to make of Minnesota. Like, I agree. Like, of all the teams to kind of take over the Winnipeg spot, like, Minnesota is the most obvious candidate because they're a team that they have a really good goaltender, really two good goaltenders, depending on kind of what you think about Wallstedt's potential. And they have a really deep, dynamic blue line, even with Brodin injured, right? I mean, like Zeev Buim, who I just felt like should not have like fallen as far as he did, has already got a goal, already looks fantastic, and yeah, like I feel like the thing with Minnesota is it's kind of always going to go back to like, well, as the top line goes, so goes Minnesota. And so,
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see how Dallas kind of handles them, because that's really like kind of what they are, right? They're Kaprizov and friends.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It is going to be interesting. I love that it's at home, rocking barn, especially coming off those 2 wins. I'm sure everyone's going to be happy, and hopefully they start the ceremonies like earlier, so that they don't need to necessarily televise the introductions because that they have to go through as well. So it'll be fun tomorrow night. I did want to ask you about Brock Faber because young, talented, just a real solid defenseman. Do you think this is the year that he kind of, moves up among the elite defensemen in the NHL as far as like getting closer to that? I don't know if he's even top 10 right now.
No, I wouldn't say he's top 10. I think he's a player that that I think still has there's still like elements of his game that still needs to work on. Like, I think a lot is mentioned about kind of like, yes, he plays tough minutes, but defensively, he struggled. And of course, that's what you would expect from like a young defender. But I think he's kind of, Faber is, to me, he's kind of in that tier of players like Heiskanen and Jake Sanderson, but like lower, where, these are players that really excel defensively, that have offensive chops. And I think with someone like Faber, it's kind of we're still like kind of figuring out what his floor is as well as his ceiling. And I feel like his ceiling is closer to Heiskanen, but his floor is well beneath both, which still makes him a really good defender, right? I mean, like, teams would be, happy to have him in their top 4, but yeah, like I think with Faber, really good player, but definitely not, he's definitely not elite. I think he's kind of often discussed as elite, but he's not there yet.
So we do have news today in the NHL. Lane Hudson and his representatives and the Canadiens agreed, let's take this offline so that Lane doesn't have to answer any more questions and it will quiet down. Well, there was a reason for that. Today, Lane Hudson signs an 8-year, $70.8 million contract with the Canadiens. This is kind of a shift in that you see, David, a lot of, players, like, for instance, some do sign bridge contracts, but Lane Hudson came into the league. He won the Calder last year. So he was rookie of the year last year, and now they're locking him up big time. 8 years, 70.8 million, 8.85 million a year. And that's after Jackson Lacombe came in with Anaheim on an 8-year deal at $9 million a year. So essentially what I'm saying, bringing it back to the Dallas Stars, is for those people, once again, that think that Thomas Harley is going to come in under Miro Heiskanen, that is not going to happen. And so at Lacombe at 9, and then Hudson, that has to me more to do with their age, and Thomas Harley is superior to both of them. And that's why I have Thomas Harley in that 10.5 to 11.5 range.
Yeah, I believe the Evolving Hockey's contract projections, which are super, super accurate, I think had Harley at like, I want to say 10.8.
Yeah.
Maybe 10, somewhere in like 10.4 to like the 10.9 range, which is probably what we can expect. And yeah, and obviously, the season he's about to have, kind of may give him kind of a slight boost.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, with the season he's going to have, the season he's already having, and then the Olympic boost, I see no reason why Thomas Harley would not be a part of that Olympic roster, right?
Yeah, as much credit as the broadcasters wanted to give Drew Doughty for quote unquote mentoring him, he did just fine. He looked excellent, and he really has come into his own as one of the top defenders like in the NHL. Um, it's a little premature to kind of say that, but I mean, it's hard to argue with the results and just the impact he's had. Again, kind of going back to not just how he played, against at the Four Nations, but also kind of what Dallas managed to do in Heiskanen's absence when Harley kind of really took over as that number one defender.
Yeah, and then the other contract a lot of people look at, granted it was just 4 years, but Evan Bouchard at $10.5 million a year. Hockey Night in Canada did a segment as far as will Evan Bouchard be on Team Canada because of his defensive abilities. That was something that they were debating. Chris Pronger and others were going back and forth. So Kevin Bieksa was on that panel. So I found that interesting as well. So to me, yeah, I think that lines up for Harley to go over that 10.5. So I think you're right. That 10.8 definitely sounds good. David, some good stuff coming up from you on your Substack?
I don't know about good, but definitely a lot
It's
of
good.
quote, unquote, content.
It's good.
No, quite a bit. Thank you. Well, quite a bit of writing. So I'm gonna. So tomorrow at the Substack, I will be writing about the quote unquote the other stars, right? So prospect report about kind of what what we saw with like Cameron Schmidt lately, who's kind of slowed down, but still I think kind of more or less on a 100-point pace. If I'm last time I checked. And as well as Emil Hemming in Texas, who has looked way different. Like he has looked far different than he did in the OHL, which is kind of somewhat shocking, but maybe kind of not shocking. I'm not sure, kind of, I guess, what side of the. Anyways, point is a lot of prospect writing for tomorrow, the Substack, and then D Magazine. I'm going to be writing about kind of who sets the tone for Dallas and what the coaching staff will be looking to in terms of kind of identifying that player that can be either the Brad Marchand or the Ivan Barbashev or the I'm trying to think of another good example, or Nikita Kucherov. Again, not the same players, but players that tend to set the tone in unique ways that kind of I think correlate with success as we've seen with recent Cup winners.
Okay, so I'm going to allow you to be the deciding vote because Sean said no, he's going to disagree with me on Friday. But then I talked to somebody else and they said, actually, I agree with you, Gavin. That actually would have been smart. Up 5-1. You're on the power play. Add an extra defenseman. I know it's old school. Sean said, no, it's a good time to work on your power play, and those were bad bounces. So the deciding vote from the analytic master himself, what would you have done?
For the analytic. No, I would not. I agree with Sean. I would not put a second defenseman. The reason why is because, well, you think about how that game ended, right? Like, if you know that the odds, and this statistically we know this, right? the odds of scoring are higher. It's one of the reasons why like the 4 forward setup got adopted, that the odds of scoring are higher um, with 4 forwards than say 3 forwards and 2 defensemen. So, I like the whole point of the power play, right? It's all first principles. The whole point of the power play is to score, right? So, yes, you could still score with 2 defenders and 3 forwards, but if it's more likely, well, then you want to make sure that, you know, this unit is getting its reps in ahead of the play, ahead of the playoffs. And yeah, I think it's also about developing habits. It's not just about the statistics. And especially if you're bringing in a second defenseman and the team isn't used to playing with 2 defenders and 3 forwards, that's also liable to kind of. By the way, statistically, like you have a case, right? Statistically, scoring against also goes up, right, with the 4 forward, 1 defenseman setup. So there is a statistical case to be like, okay, well, we're in the lead. Let's go with the 2 defensemen and 3 forwards. There is a statistical case for that. I don't know why I have trouble saying that word, but anyways, but I mean, up 5-1, like you're not exactly like, oh, okay, man, we're really in danger of blowing this lead. Granted, like Dallas did exactly that, but at the same time, like that's not how you should not play scared or frightened in that way. So you are wrong, Gavin. You're way wrong.
I will take my L, and I will take it like a man. Some people will just continue to disagree, but not me. I heard from David and I heard from Sean Shapiro, and that's good enough for me because I value their opinion. So there we go. You're an absolute beast, my friend. The Substack is called Stars Stack. So make sure you subscribe to that. And he also has another Substack called Sticks and Salvos. He writes for D Magazine. Support D Magazine. Sean is writing articles. Robert's writing articles. David writes articles. Just kudos to the staff at D Magazine for putting some serious effort into hockey. I think that's really cool here in DFW, and it's a heck of a magazine as well. My friend.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know we're kind of you're doing the outro and everything.
Yeah.
Interrupt you.
I had a good dismount going.
Sorry, I was just going to say, hopefully that did not come across as condescending because there are power, like, I don't know if people know this, but I think it's Vancouver and one of the team, they do a 2 defenseman setup. So yeah, hopefully that did not come across as condescending. I just think that your case, I think, would be applicable if this were about like a different team. And what is going to take Dallas to the promised land? It's going to be their offense, right? That's the most, I think, impactful part of who they are, which is the abundance of impact forwards. So that's just wanted to clarify that.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't take it that way. I was honestly being serious. Like, I think one of the things that I like doing about Spits and Suds is, having various opinions. We're not towing the line of just like one thing and we can't say this and we can't say this. This show is built on opinions. So I want people to disagree with me. And I want to be able to disagree with others. And there are a lot of people with a lot of hockey experience that jump on. So when they disagree with me, I take it for that. And I take it as a learning experience because we're all growing this together. Now, sometimes there are going to be things that, I say that come to fruition as well. So it's just, to me, it's about having as many voices as possible, disagreeing, agreeing, just as many eyes as possible. I mean, I know you poke fun at me for being old school. I absolutely am old school. There is no doubt. I'm not like old school, but I do think there are some old school tactics that can still be effective in today's game. So, yeah. So that's why, I mean, like, it's simplified, but all last year I was talking about that the Stars needed to be bigger, and they're bigger this year. So I like that. And I like that they need to win, puck battles. Am I wrong? That's old school stuff, right?
Hold on, let's see. Real quick. Let's settle another debate.
Yeah.
Right? Harley should have been on the top unit since Jump Street. Yes or no?
Oh, 100%.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I know. We were all talking about that, weren't we?
We were, but I don't know if, like, I haven't heard that. Maybe the discussion's being had and I just don't, but I haven't heard that discussion like since the game, since puck drop, right? Since game 1 and 2. Yeah, we everybody said that when DeBoer was here. I haven't
Yeah.
heard anybody say that with
Oh,
Gulletson in
yeah, I
charge.
understand what you're saying. Yes, Harley needs to be power play one, and he needs to get the majority of time. Like, I understand. Like, I just we protect four here. That's all I'm going to say. Like, and I don't want to say anything negative, but offensively, we have to come to the realization that this is not an elite offensive defenseman, nor can he be an elite offensive defenseman. If people want to tell me that, then I'll be like, okay. But to me, I've seen enough to know that Thomas Harley is better offensively than Miro Heiskanen.
So why isn't he on the top unit?
That's a good question. I don't know. We'll find out tomorrow night, right? We'll find out tomorrow night. Maybe it has to do with the shifts. I'm not sure, but yeah. I mean, we'll see. I honestly, if Nils Lundkvist keeps playing like this, he's pretty effective as well. And the one thing about Nils Lundkvist that I like, people know he's going to shoot the puck. I honestly would love to see simplified. But to me, when I watch the power play, I see teams pack in versus Miro Heiskanen in that there's no threat that shot's coming from Miro Heiskanen.
Well, I mean, I think and again, like I don't want to like start like the sort of the criticisms and the peanut gallery debate kind of early on when you know it's possible that I don't know the power play goes ballistic and we all look quote unquote silly, but I mean I also just like you said, I mean we know who these players are at this point. We know who Harley is, we know
Right.
who Heiskanen is, and I think the other weird thing is that like Heiskanen just doesn't um, for whatever reason, I don't know if a little bit of it's like kind of coaching and what they say on the power play, but he doesn't move as much on the power play,
Yes.
which is where I think if he were to be effective, it would be in kind of constant rotation, somebody that was using his legs more, but just kind of haven't seen that and probably never will.
I don't know if Neil Graham would tell the truth on this or not, but in game one, on the power play that led to a goal, was it Miro's decision to try to pinch to try to keep a puck in the zone, which led to a Winnipeg goal, or did they teach him that?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a good question. But I mean, I stopped there because I don't want to be known as a Miro hater, honestly, because I think he's a very, very good defenseman. But
But see, you are a mirror hater though.
no, I'm not. No. I'm a Utah lover, but I am not a Miro hater. No,
I'm
I'm
glad the truth comes out about Utah though.
no, I'm just kidding around. Although I did predict them in the top three, and I could be wrong about that. But um, I am not a Miro hater. I just think that the talk every year of Miro Heiskanen, like for instance, I'll just throw it out there. Why not, right? If you're going to talk Norris Trophy, put Thomas Harley ahead of Miro Heiskanen.
Well, I think that's something you've seen in the analytics community, right? This is something that is, kind of not all that contested, which is that like, well, yeah, the numbers really kind of favor Harley. Um, I still think that if I really think that if Klingberg had stayed and Heiskanen had kind of been in Klingberg's shadow offensively, I do think people would probably look at Heiskanen differently, maybe kind of analyze him in a way that he deserves to be analyzed, which is um, as kind of more of like a Jonas Brodin than like a Cale Makar, because
Yeah,
that's really who Heisen fundamentally is. I think he still has really good offensive talents, but no, they don't belong anywhere near the elite offensive defenders like Quinn Hughes or Werenski,
exactly.
or Makar and so forth.
He's
But
really, really good.
yeah, but there's still a place for him. I just
Of
it's so
course.
weird that we kind of have this discussion seemingly every year where it's like, well, there's a better option than
Yeah.
Heiskin on the top unit. So what are we doing? Again, like I'm not there yet with kind of making like raising a big stink about it, but it does seem pretty obvious, I think, to kind of most of us that like Harley should just be on the top unit. I get it; they're probably managing minutes, especially if Harley is playing more PK minutes. I'm sure that's like a big factor, but I'm just like, well, do you want your power play to score goals or not? If
Yeah.
so, Harley needs to be there.
The great David Castillo, once again, you can reach him at David Castillo AC on Twitter. Also, D Magazine, and his Substack is at Stars Stack for all your Stars information. Thank you, my friend. This is always an engaging conversation.
No, thank you, man. I'm always really happy to be invited. I feel it's a privilege because you are a total sweetheart and you do a lot of great things for the Stars community. And yeah, I'm also super like again, I could say that with a little bit more excitement because you were on my Discord, and that was really the most important. That's really the only reason why.
I was excited to join. I need to jump in more conversations.
Man, everybody loves having you there. Yeah, man, thank you for the guests that you always have on as well. I'm always like so happy that you bring in people from the other side, you know, like the Jets writer. Because yeah, that's, you know, part of coverage is, I would say, you know, the bulk of coverage is also kind of analysis, right? People want to understand like, well, you know, why did this team sports harder than the other team? And why did this team fail to sports as hard as they should have? Analysis, right? And so, you know, getting the other perspective is crucial. So yeah, man, you do a great job.
Well, thanks, man. I always say like having those people on from the outside looking in, it's a great opportunity to learn because we are in a bubble. Every city's in a bubble. So if you can get someone on from a different perspective, I think it's fascinating in a league wide, you know, and I try to keep focused on Stars, but like, you know, for instance, with the Lane Hudson contract, I think it is important to talk NHL issues too, because, you know, once again, that's part of the education of hockey in DFW, because, you know, that's an important piece to the NHL. A young, vibrant defenseman gets locked up to a long-term deal. And, you know, one of these days I'd love to do just a strictly NHL one where we can dive into some teams. Maybe some people wouldn't be interested, but I'm fascinated with the Canadians, for instance, and the pieces that they have on that team. We just, you know, I don't want people tuning out when I talk about these obscure teams, but it is fascinating. So, all right, with that, I will make the proper dismount. David Castillo is awesome. Thank you so much for listening to Spits and Suds. So, big game, Minnesota, hitting the AAC home opener. I will tell you this. If you are going to the game, at GJ Spittle, a Frosty on me. Once again, a Frosty does not need to be an alcoholic beverage. It could be a soda. It could be a water. Whatever it is, let me buy it for you as a thank you. Stop laughing. As a thank you for listening and supporting Spits and Suds. And the best part is that we'll be getting together before David and I get together. So that's nice. All right.
Oh, my. I'm telling you right now, people they're hearing the Wendy's milkshake. They're not hearing soft drinks.
I get it. I get
it. Anyways, okay,
no,
yeah,
Frosty means if you would like a Canadian lager, for instance, you could certainly, you know, enjoy one of those. A nice Marty Turco Kingsville. That would be delicious. So
stop trying to make fetch a thing.
Yeah, I'm happy to buy you whatever beverage. The only caveat I have is give me 5 minutes of your time. Let's have a quality hockey conversation. For the greatness of David Castillo and my friends at the On Time Experts that make this podcast happen, I'm Gavin Spittle of 105.3 The Fan. We'll be back tomorrow for a post-game pod, Stars versus Wild. Until then, have a great day, everyone.